In the year 2000, Netflix walked into Blockbuster's headquarters and offered to sell the entire company for just $50 million. Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. 10 years later, Blockbuster was bankrupt. This is how one of the greatest corporate collapses in history happened, and how a DVD by mail startup changed the world forever. Before Netflix, before streaming, before binge watching, there was Blockbuster. Founded in 1985 by David Cook in Dallas, Texas, Blockbuster was built on a simple but powerful idea: give people access to movies without buying them. The concept exploded. By the late 1990s, Blockbuster had over 9,000 stores worldwide, employed 60,000 people, and was generating nearly $6 billion in annual revenue. Friday nights meant one thing: driving to Blockbuster. It was a cultural ritual. Parents dragged kids through aisles of VHS tapes. Teenagers browsed for hours. The blue and yellow sign was as American as fast food. At its peak, Blockbuster was opening a new store every 17 hours. It was untouchable. It was dominant. It felt permanent. And that feeling, that dangerous sense of invincibility, would be its greatest weakness. The story of Netflix actually begins with a late fee. In 1997, Reed Hastings returned a VHS copy of Apollo 13 to his local Blockbuster, 6 weeks late. The penalty? $40. Hastings was embarrassed and frustrated. But instead of just grumbling, he asked a different question: why do video rentals even work this way? That question, combined with a background in software engineering and a fresh $2.5 million from selling his previous company, sparked the idea for Netflix. In 1998, Hastings and co-founder Mark Randolph launched Netflix.com, a DVD by mail service. No stores, no late fees ever. For a flat monthly subscription, customers would rent unlimited DVDs delivered straight to their mailbox. It was a frictionless, customer-first model. Blockbuster barely noticed. That was their first mistake. Netflix's early years were far from a guaranteed success story. When the site launched in 1998, it offered individual DVD rentals with late fees, ironically the exact same model they hated. It wasn't until 1999 that Hastings pivoted to the flat-rate monthly subscription model that would define the company. Even then, growth was painfully slow. The dot-com crash of 2000 nearly wiped them out entirely. Netflix burned through cash, slashed its workforce by a third, and seriously considered selling to Amazon for around $15 million. Jeff Bezos passed. By 2002, Netflix went public on the NASDAQ, raising $82.5 million. Analysts were unconvinced. Critics called it a fad. Subscribers were loyal, but still numbered only in the hundreds of thousands. Nobody could have imagined what was coming. But Reed Hastings could, and that vision made all the difference. While Netflix was scraping to survive, Blockbuster was living its most dangerous illusion: absolute dominance. By 2002, Viacom had acquired Blockbuster, and the brand was expanding relentlessly across the globe. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. The business model was quietly rotting. Nearly 16% of Blockbuster's total revenue, close to $800 million annually, came not from rentals, but from late fees. Customers despised them. It was the single most complained about aspect of the entire experience. Internally, executives knew this, but late fees were too profitable to kill, so they kept them. Meanwhile, a quiet competitor called Redbox was placing DVD kiosks in McDonald's parking lots for just $1 a night. The warning signs were everywhere. The instinct to protect short-term revenue over long-term loyalty would prove to be the decision that hollowed Blockbuster from the inside out, long before Netflix ever dealt the final blow. In the year 2000, Reed Hastings flew to Dallas for a meeting with Blockbuster's CEO John Antioco. The offer on the table was straightforward. Netflix would run Blockbuster's online brand, and Blockbuster would promote Netflix in its thousands of stores. The asking price? $50 million. Antioco and his team reportedly laughed. Netflix was losing money, had fewer than 300,000 subscribers, and seemed like a niche service for tech-savvy early adopters. Why would Blockbuster, with billions in revenue and millions of loyal customers, need a scrappy startup? The answer, of course, is that they desperately did. But arrogance is a powerful filter. It prevents companies from seeing threats as threats. Blockbuster walked away from the deal that would have saved them. Netflix walked away with nothing to lose and everything to prove. To be fair to Blockbuster, they didn't completely ignore the threat. In 2004, under CEO John Antioco, Blockbuster launched Blockbuster Online, a direct competitor to Netflix. They eliminated late fees, invested heavily in digital infrastructure, and even began outperforming Netflix on subscriber growth in some quarters. For a brief moment, it looked like Blockbuster might actually pull off the comeback. But then the board panicked. Shareholders hated the short-term losses from eliminating late fees, fees that had generated nearly $800 million a year. They ousted Antioco and brought in Jim Keyes, who famously said in 2008 that he saw no credible threat from Netflix or Redbox. Blockbuster reversed course, reinstated late fees, and gutted its digital strategy. It was corporate suicide executed in slow motion. Here's the painful irony that history doesn't talk about enough. Blockbuster actually had someone who saw it all coming. Carl Icahn, the legendary activist investor, acquired a major stake in Blockbuster in 2004 and pushed aggressively for change. But the real unsung figure was CEO John Antioco himself. Despite his reputation as the man who fumbled the Netflix deal, Antioco's Blockbuster Online strategy was genuinely working. By 2005, Blockbuster Online had signed up 3 million subscribers, faster growth than Netflix at the same stage. The no-late fee policy was rebuilding customer trust at scale. Wall Street hated the short-term losses. The board revolted. Antioco was forced out in 2007 with a reduced severance after a very public compensation dispute. His replacement, Jim Keyes, came from convenience retail 7-Eleven and had zero background in digital media. The moment Keyes took the chair, Blockbuster's fate was effectively sealed. While Blockbuster was imploding from within, Netflix was quietly rewriting the rules. In 2007, Netflix launched its streaming service, originally as a free add-on for DVD subscribers. The timing was perfect. Broadband internet was now widespread. Smart TVs were emerging. The iPhone had just launched. People were ready to consume content differently. Netflix invested aggressively in streaming licenses, user experience, and, crucially, data. Their recommendation algorithm wasn't just convenient, it was addictive. By 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy with over $900 million in debt. That same year, Netflix crossed 20 million subscribers. In 2013, Netflix released House of Cards, their first original series, and transformed from a content distributor into a content creator. Today, Netflix operates in over 190 countries with more than 300 million subscribers. Blockbuster has one store left, in Bend, Oregon. Blockbuster didn't die because streaming was invented. It died because it chose comfort over adaptation and arrogance over innovation. Netflix didn't win because it was lucky. It won because it kept asking better questions. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest business collapses in history. And let me know in the comments which company's downfall you want covered next.